Welcome to the Divine Design Super Channel. There is a divine design to this game of life, and your mind is the main channel through which you receive divine inspiration. We will help you tap into the divine plan you have for yourself, and we will also reveal alternative health solutions and energetic healing solutions for everyday challenges. Thank you for joining us.
Hi there, I'm Bart Smyth, a modern day shaman, and today I've got Tara Crete. Tara Crete is with us today from Florida. I'm coming to you from Sweden. Our channel is dedicated to interfacing with many great masters around the world, sharing ideas, sharing the internal knowledge of the quantum field, and making a daily access for all available here and through many different avenues. So Tara comes to us and she's a certified life coach. She has taught yoga for more than 23 years, and I can say she's taught many, if not all, yogas. She's committed to helping people expand their creativity, discover their hidden passions, and achieve their heartfelt dreams. She's also the host of her new podcast, Sacred Valley, and I welcome Tara Crete.
Hi, Bart. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm happy. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Great. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
And you're you and I have already had one conversation, and I've been looking at your bio and your website, and you've been to Peru, studied intensely there.
I have. That's right. I lived there for a while.
And and in your travels, what I've seen is that you've accessed a way to work with people not only physically, but in their evolution physically and coming into the body spirit. And the testimonies on your website are great. They're, total transformation is taking place for people. So
yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah,
I think that's what you and I have in common.
Yeah. And you're yoga. I'm the martial arts.
Great.
And I'd like everybody to know, like, I'm not the martial arts, but a lot of them. But Tai Chi is Tibetan yoga combined with Chinese boxing and Kung Fu and Qigong. But the essence came across from India to China. So it began, and great martial arts in India start with a lot of massage and yoga and all that, and then they take them into the arts. So we have a great union.
Was Tai Chi mainly a masculine practice like yoga was? Was it taught to only men, or because back in the day, yoga was only taught to men, not women?
Yeah, I mean, in all the studies I've done, yes. Okay. But that ended a long time ago.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But no, I don't have any of the older texts, including women.
Right.
But there were women at the Shaolin Temple. So.
Oh, neat. Okay, cool.
So, so I'd like, for me, I'd like to go into this subject more that we spoke about, the divine presence of the sacred feminine. So I'd like to have your point of view on this, how it came to you to discover this passion of yours to share with the world, and how I see it benefiting us. So,
well, it's an ongoing process. I'm understanding it more and more. But when I first heard about the divine feminine rising, I don't know how many years ago, I learned that there was something called the Great Year. And it has to do with, how we measure time. And I consider it an eon. They call it a great year, which is roughly 25,960 years. So just under 26,000 years. And a lot takes place, obviously, during those almost 26,000 years. But then it's broken down into 12 great ages. And each one of those ages occurs when there's a certain symbiosis that happens between the Earth's axis and the equator line and the sun. The sun, it kind of like the Earth kind of wobbles toward a certain constellation. And every great age is considered, there's a little debate about this, between 2,000 years and 2,160 years. There's no exact amount. And we're just leaving the Piscean age, and we're now entering, and some even say we're already in the Aquarian age. So I learned about these ages and how through history they have had a pattern where one age would be masculine and have masculine influences, and then another age will have a feminine influence. And from what I can tell is that we're just leaving the Piscean age, which had a lot of masculine influence through the ego suppression and the Catholic Church and religion. And now we're heading into a more feminine aspect of who we are, because realistically, and I know that you know this, we each have energies inside of us, both masculine and feminine. And it's really about balance. It's not about, I'm no feminist. I've never been a feminist. I did grow up in the 80s, and I was taught to be a very strong, powerful woman. So I might have some feminist attributes, but I am not a feminist. I never burned a bra in my life.
Well, that's a whole nother subject, but I would like to say something to what you say. Being a powerful woman, in my investigation as to the feminist movement, being a powerful woman is encompassing all things, and feminism can be somewhat focused on one point.
Yes. So. And I think what the feminist movement did, I think a lot of women felt like they had to be more like a man instead of really raising up their divine femininity. There's a lot of people, and I may even have been included in that back in the day, that we felt like we had to assert ourselves more like the male figure. And I don't think that's really the way to access that divine femininity any more than it would be if you wanted to have a divine masculinity. And you wanted to call in the feminine, you wouldn't want to start acting like a woman for that. I guess there'd be different ways of achieving that.
No. Yeah, I think this is refreshing to hear. Actually, I appreciate that. Here where I live in Sweden, they really did the equality thing, and where they really made the two equal so much to the point that it's now where men, from my experience, I don't want to say this about all Sweden or all men in Sweden, but the men that I've worked with that are Swedish have found it, they find themselves lost as far as their instinctual role as a male isn't somewhat honored in their own groups. They've kind of modified their behavior for that. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it never occurred to me. I know that if you go into the Middle East, obviously masculine and feminine is not balanced whatsoever. I did not know that about Sweden. And I can see that if you're forcing someone or a society to be equally balanced in a certain way, I don't know if it has to be 50-50. I believe each one of us has masculine and feminine inside of us, and it's nice to have that balance. But I don't know if 50-50 is the answer for everyone. And also, what's going on today in the world, they're removing a lot of the alpha male characteristics, and I think this conversation is different, wouldn't you say? This isn't about everyone being more feminine. This is just about allowing that feminine aspect to rise, and I'd like to see more of it in our government, in big pharma, less wars, more stewardship of the earth, and have the men still do what they're best at. I don't really think men and women are equal. I really don't. I think you as men have certain roles to play, and you're a lot better at things than I am, and I'm, as a female, a lot better at things too. So again, it's not about wanting to be like one or the other. It's about accessing the divine feminine inside of me and or masculine inside of you and bringing it to the forefront for the highest good.
Yeah. It's definitely not spoken about, or the divine feminine. I mean, for me, I don't like this, like, I don't portray myself as the most macho man on the world, but I kind of fit a basic male format or whatever you want to call it. I've been mechanical and been in a building, working on my own cars, motorcycles, building businesses, working, going out in the world, and all the martial arts also were combative, and sports I did were that combative nature in competition. When it became over the top, physically abusive, I quit football. It's like my own team beat the hell out of me in practice one day. I mean, it's like this 260-pound linebacker, and I said, okay. And so that's not the point, but the rising of the feminine, actually the sensations of vulnerability that I think out of balance male focus can be developed, or it was developed in me. So for me to actually sense and feel and come into a place to allow those softer energies in me, let alone even around me, it was like something that was knocking on the door all the time. And I didn't have a real role model until I got with my teachers, right? That were psychotherapists and shamans, and then the body-centered psychotherapy. But it took me a long time to come into my body to feel after all the tough stuff, so to speak.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of conditioning that takes place, when we're younger, and depending on where you grew up and who you grew up with. As you know, a lot of men in your era, when you're little boys, you're not taught to tap into that loving consciousness that, say, a mother has or a female has. And again, I'm like you, I don't like to make sweeping generalizations. I'm never saying that one class of person is all the same way. But, raising up that divine feminine means still maintaining your masculinity at whatever level you want. Again, it's not about reducing it and then raising the feminine. There's a lot of confusion about that.
Actually, I want to say something to that too, because I've actually been going through a big transition. I've told you about, and you've investigated a little bit, that X39, the stem cell technology.
Yes.
A lot of my ability to sense and feel were wrapped up in even my football traumas. I mean, I got knocked out through the helmet. Wham, like the cartoon see stars. It's like,
sure.
Thing was supposed
I
to
thought
protect.
that was just a myth. You actually really saw stars.
Yeah, I really. That's the only time I've been knocked out quite a few times, but not bragging. It's just I've had accidents and stuff. Yeah, this guy just gave me a forearm. I was fast, and he was getting mad at me for getting past him. But what I wanted to say is, until this technology was able to actually push the traumas out of my brain and structures, or I should just say, once it did, I went through a real level of vulnerability. And the funny thing was, I've been training Shotokan karate with my son, and I got out of the hard styles like 30 years ago when I went to Tai Chi. But I love the hard styles. It's still in my body, and it's good for coordination and everything. Mm-hmm. But at one point, I remember waking up one morning, like really shaky and vulnerable, and wondering if I should do karate anymore. It's like, really? Is this working for me anymore? Some of the guys are pretty tough in class. It's okay, I can take it, but it's not something that I want to respond, and I don't respond the same way as I did when I was younger doing it after 30 years of Tai Chi. But what I wanted to say is, now, after 2 years of having this technology and a lot of the traumas and reformatting and new material for me to absorb the divine feminine coming in, I actually feel stronger, and I feel more of a male confidence, if I could say, confidence in being male when I'm around strong, powerful women, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I think that's one of the things about it. If as I said, I haven't talked to anybody about this, but if the thing about it before was, when I was around strong, powerful, spiritual women that could actually express themselves in ways that were new to me, I kind of didn't have the listening for that, although I was intrigued or interested, I didn't feel like I could be there.
Yeah.
Even though I could hold courses and work with people and clients and all this other stuff, and I can be in that
environment,
space, and holding space and being there. I could do that, but on the other level of actually engaging fully and being there without any back voices of wondering what people are thinking about my idea about what they're bringing forward, I guess I was always on a self-doubt thing there because of lack of exposure, actually,
Yeah,
and the operational function. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, the point I love the point you brought up about how when you're surrounded by strong, powerful women, so when women and men accept and take their role as the divine feminine, as the divine male, it does open up a space for if I'm in my full essence of female, I am opening up a door for you to be the male. But it takes a strong woman like me, and I learned this at a course that I did back in the 90s, and it was one of the most, I've got like maybe 10 things in my life that I've done that have literally changed me as a woman, and this was one of them. It was a weekend course. It was called the Sterling Weekend, and we literally got to understand the what role our ego played. And I was 28 at the time, and I had learned that in a relationship, a male-female relationship, you can't have two egos, because when there's two egos, one ego is going to win. And prior to me taking that course, my ego always won. I was what I thought was a very strong, woman in a relationship. I really wasn't being strong. I learned that. Being vulnerable is really being strong. But I learned that so if I win every time and my ego wins, that means that you lose every time, which means we both lose. So if I could understand, and I was the same, I have to be trained and I have to practice learning how to be the female and allowing you to be the male. We grew up in a society in the United States anyway, where they didn't teach us that. So at least we're learning, at least we're growing and learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's also the energies on the planet I know are supporting this now. And, that 25,000 year shift.
Yeah.
Right.
A great year. It's coming to an end.
It's this year?
Well, they say there's a gray area. When exactly does the Piscean age start? When does it end? I think even if in the eyes of the universe, even if it's 100-year span, it's a blink of an eye. We can still be on the cusp.
Sure.
Okay. I think the Aquarian age has begun. That's my sense. That's my feeling.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that, and I feel that these distorted ways of male behavior are less attractive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that was manipulated too, because I was born of a father that was in World War II, and he was George Patton's forward observer, so he was in the thick of it.
He's a tough guy.
My dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He ran a platoon, just like the movie with Tom Hanks. He looked like him, and I watched that movie. I said, "Holy God!" I'm glad. So yeah, wow. I was expected to go to Vietnam, and the war ended, but I prepared to go mentally and physically to go.
Oh,
and
wow.
I trained with guys coming out of Nam from the age of like 14, going forward, and so I had a mental focus, which bothered all my friends because they were all going to go to Canada or something like that. Are you kidding?
You were ready. You were armed and ready.
Yeah. Well, I never thought of not, with my dad and until the My Lai massacre happened, and I questioned it, and my dad just let me become clear on that. But that's how war is,
I'm glad you didn't have to go.
Thank you. But the thing about it was that was just an accepted thing. War was just an accepted thing. And this is why I've looked at this a lot, that it's been an accepted behavior well past the age of communication.
Right.
And so that indoctrination and programming happened through Hollywood, through TV, through advertisements, through toy manufacturers. And I had a ball. I mean, I had a blast with my BB guns and everything like that. Everything was fun. But what was developing within us, right?
Yeah.
And so now I feel like there's I watch because I have a 12-year-old boy, and he's all boy, and meaning and he's actually got the divine feminine already in him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's already in touch with his feelings and
Oh,
his
that's
emotions.
nice.
And yeah, he's like an old soul.
Oh,
And also he's been grabbing weapons and swords and sticks, and he's in karate, and we
yeah.
spar, you know, and I just see that his intelligence and the boys nowadays intelligence is kind of at a crossroads, and that it's not going that way.
Mm.
There is a communication that's interfacing, and it's exciting. I mean, I'm thrilled to see it.
Oh,
I mean,
raising a balanced child like that must be very rewarding.
Yeah, he's doing a good job with me.
He's teaching you well.
Yeah, well, no, it is. It's more than reward. I mean, and I joke about that, but really, that's the beauty of having children, is you get to see where you weren't exposed or whatever, and be able to put that in. But energetically, the world just feels like we're going there, and this is a great subject. And is there something that you could share for us that you could maybe, what you would point at so that we could see as well, this is a sign of the feminine coming in, and maybe I'm going, or.
Well, I think right now it's so confusing because our world, we're living in a very, very difficult time right now. Our country, our world is going through a huge transition. So it's really easy you and I are speaking of a divine feminine aspect. And I think what the world is going through, especially in the United States anyway, and I think you're pretty tuned into what's happening here, even though you don't live here right now. There's a lot of, they want to remove a lot of the masculinity from the men. And almost, it sounds like what they're doing in Sweden. They almost want men to be confused about what their roles are and whatnot. Now, are you aware of Aaron Russo? He was the director of Trading Places and The Rose, and he also directed a phenomenal documentary that's free online called Freedom to Fascism. Every single American should watch that, by the way. I
watched that.
It's right. It's amazing. I tell everyone. He directed that. But he has an interview online. Aaron Russo passed away in 2007, but he has an interview online where he tells the story. And he had befriended, or David Rockefeller had befriended him. And the Rockefellers are up there as one of the main families that kind of run the whole deal that we have going on here. And that David Rockefeller told Aaron Russo that they created feminism. They created the feminist movement. It was all created to break up the family, to take the woman away from the home, to put her into the workforce. So number one, they can earn taxes on both the male and the female, the husband and the wife. And it started to confuse the genders. It started to confuse the gender roles. Had you ever heard that before?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
The first time I heard it, I was like, what else is not a lie, right? What else have we grown up with that we weren't lied to about? But that was, I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, I heard the woman that burned the bra was actually a CIA asset.
So
corporate. Yeah.
So that means the way I grew up was under false pretense. That means the way you grew up and understanding what your role was in relation to a woman was under. So that's why I think this time that we're in is called the Great Awakening, because we're shaking everything loose. We're destroying a lot of things in order to find out at the base level who we are and what we are. But I think when it comes to the divine feminine, I have the perfect example. I listen to someone who's an alternative news source, and his name is Michael Jaco. To me, he is the perfect example of a balanced male. He's a former CIA agent. He was a Navy SEAL for 20 years.
Yeah, I've seen that guy.
Yeah, but he teaches intuition courses. Yeah. And he remote views. And he has love bowls. He has these singing bowls that he plays, and he meditates. So to me, he knows his role. He's big, he's muscular, he loves to work out, but he's not afraid to talk about love. He's not afraid to have a discussion about his feelings, or to tap into his intuitive side, because that is considered the feminine aspect of who we are. That's not something that you were taught when you were little, most likely.
No, that's what I was saying. That he's very soft in that way. and it's interesting, and it's a great thing that he's showing there, because he's really the highest level of training.
Right.
You don't get any higher than that to face that, which is, it's one of those things. I faced it myself in my own way, but it's not a thought that is something that you go there to do, but when it happens, it's just done. Meaning the violence and the combat and stuff like that.
Right.
But to come out of that and to be able to reach inside and feel again.
Yes.
He had to take quite a journey. I know mine, and it's yeah. That's the thing that's. I loved what you said earlier, because my one teacher along my road to awakening to another reality other than the one I had learned to manage was, he told me one day, he goes, Bart, total power is total vulnerability.
Yes.
And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm going, bullshit. Are you kidding?
It's so true, though.
Yeah, it's like, and another 20 years later, oh, okay.
The light bulb went off.
Well, I could feel it. I had to come back into my body, and this thing, when everything's drawn out, it's like that. And I think that's, the burning of the bra and the job and the this. And I'm all for women making more money than me. I don't care what.
Sure.
I have no opinion about that whatsoever. I never did. And I think if it wasn't put in our face, I don't think anybody would have, except coming out through the 50s and 60s, maybe. But also the way they did it was maybe in a way, I don't know, but maybe in a way that created a sense of threat instead of communication and discussion.
Of course. Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And choice. Right. Like you're about expanding creativity and discovering your hidden passions and that. And then the choice is made internally. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so this is the thing that I think has been the greatest hurdle, is to get to that, is that's okay. Right. For each one of us to go there and find that and express it and know that it's supported instead of judged or.
Correct. To step into that role that we were all meant to,
Exactly.
reside in. We've, these past 2,000 years have began with Christ, and it's been a very patriarchal, male-dominated society for the last 2,000 years or so. And, the masculine has dominated the world through politics, industry, corruption, religion, food supply, like I was saying, big farm, like pharmacy, the Catholic Church itself. I mean, that's one other whole subject. Medicine's been male dominated. So again, I'm sounding like a feminist, but I'm not. What I'm saying is bringing in the balance there. I mean, imagine if a woman, in the Catholic Church, a woman still cannot speak as an intermediary to God. And women are still the number one group of people on this planet that are oppressed and assaulted and abused more than any other group of people, whether it be a race or a gender or anyone, even still. So what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the feminine rising is, again, it's almost like stay in your lane, right? Take your lane is your lane and where it is, and do your job really well and be the man. I want to do my job as a female. I want my ego to take the back seat for the most part. I still have an ego. We all do. We're human. We can't do without it. But to allow you as a man to live your life and be in your role, and just kind of stay in our lane and know where we're supposed to be, and understand the difference between vulnerability and strength. When I was younger, I thought strength was giving someone the silent treatment for 3 hours or 2 days. And
Ooh.
That's not power. That's not strength.
That's crippling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I think back on those days, the ignorance, and no one taught me, like I said, I was taught through the 80s, you be strong. You don't need a man. You can make more money or make as much as you want. And there's some truth in all of that, but it's nice to have a counterpart. It's nice to let people in and let them help, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, grow together. Yeah. There's with good exchange. I mean, yeah. So that divine feminine, if we were to discuss it, you were saying Michael Jaco has come from this ultimate warrior, operative, government operative,
Oh yeah.
knowing all the dirty secrets and all the other stuff.
Yeah, he's
You gotta
badass.
he's really got to hold that tight. And then now he's able to go past to his intuition and sensitivity and stillness to remote view.
It's a beautiful balance, isn't it? To me, he's the perfect example. I'm wondering where more men like that are.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel I'm not a CIA operative, but I know the other world. I can say that. And I know that there's a lot of men like me that are opening up now. I meet them, especially I work in the Middle East. And you're right. I mean, I listen to the stories from women, mainly women come to me in those countries. And I'm sitting there and I'm going to neutrality and I go, really? Okay. And then we work with what is, but then when there's men that are just, that isn't working for the male either. It's collapsing over there.
Oh, of course. You're right. Yeah. It's not how things are supposed to be. And my sister lived in the Middle East for a year. She was in Abu Dhabi, and she didn't stay her second year. She said, I came home, and I said, why did you come home? Because, she was teaching, making a lot of money, tax-free. There were a lot of perks. And she said, there's just this vacuous, heartless feeling over there that she said the women have to walk 6 feet behind the men. They can't, she says, it's not America. It's just really different. She had a really hard time with it. And she decided to come home. So yeah, I mean, these women, I don't know how, thank God I wasn't born over there. I probably would have already been burned at the stake. They can't even show parts of the body. Oh, I mean, trust me.
Well, I tell you, the UAE, there's different parts. I'm mainly in Dubai. I do work in Abu Dhabi also. And there's a difference between those two towns too. Dubai is a little more, I think, cosmopolitan. And,
yeah.
But they're reaching out to women like you, big time.
Well, this was also about
men.
It was 20 years ago that she was there, so I bet you things have changed a little bit since then. Hopefully, anyway.
I mean, it's changed. I started working there, I think 5-6 years ago, and I helped a group start a raw food training healing center there. And I watched it evolve. It's beautiful. It's like there's many healing centers, many things changing, but actually the head sheikh of Dubai has all his, I hope I can say this because they told me, he has all his secretaries or people that work from the female side of it. They all go and take Reiki courses and yoga and other things.
Nice.
He wants that intuition there. And yeah, so it's changing.
That's good to know. I'm happy for the women over there, and just for the whole society. The other day I was speaking with a good friend of mine who is very, very passionate about the word of Christ, and he's not religious. He doesn't like formalized religion, but he's very passionate about the teachings of the Bible and the word of Christ. And I'm just kind of learning about that stuff. But I was questioning him about where is the feminine in Christianity, other than God chose Mary as, the chosen one to have, to come through, because God can't just show up, right? There's a law that God operates by. He can't just come to earth. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of femininity. Even the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Where's the mother? It should be the Father, the mother, and the child, and then the Holy Spirit. So I was asking a lot of questions that they couldn't necessarily answer. And being the thinker and the questioner I am, sometimes my questions and my way of thinking can get in the way. It can almost thwart my position and take me off track. And I kind of caught myself. I'm really good at being wrong. I've learned, Bart, over the years, like just to be like, okay, that was me. I screwed up, because like we were talking about before we came on, when I make a mistake, it's an opportunity to learn. So for me, I'm like, oh, I just made a mistake. What am I going to learn from it? So I caught myself because I was about to roll my yoga mat out and I was about to practice. And I thought yoga was very masculine. I just told you earlier, they only taught men 5,000 years ago. But I'm not questioning that. I've been getting on my mat almost every day for 23 years. So I thought, well, I can't really question the Bible to the extent that I was and have it be a problem if I'm not going to also question yoga. And then I realized, you know what? It was just the time that the Bible was written. 70 or so men, a panel of them, wrote the Bible. They revised the Bible. They weren't allowing women at the time. So I just have to kind of accept it and move on.
Well, you might be interested to know, and I'm going to be careful what I say, because I just spoke to this gentleman, and I have, I'm not religious, but I have had experience where I actually needed help, and I asked for it, and it came so fast, and I just asked Jesus to help me because I didn't know who else to ask.
Right.
I mean, it was really a dire moment.
Yep.
It was life or death, and bam. I felt this hand on my head, and the energy just went, shoo.
Wow.
And I go, who's that? So I share that freely. And so I was sharing that story with a gentleman, and this guy ran all the stuff they pulled out of the teachings, that there were top priestesses, as it were, that were with Jesus and in that Last Supper, and that the very top, there were 7 women that were the closest to him. And I used to have this thing. In fact, I wrote a song about it, 7 women drumming. I'm not going through, but it was one of these chants that came out of the medicine work for me. And I had this vision of seven women crossing over mountains and valleys and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then he told me about that. I used to tap into that Christ consciousness, not Jesus necessarily, but
right. Yep.
the inner sanctums and all this other stuff. And yeah, when I was done, I go, wow, they did a really good job of covering that up, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
So it was balanced, and it was probably more that the women were revered even higher, or as high as
right.
the top. So it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to meet you on this conversation like this.
Yeah, things were changed, things were shifted, things were oppressed, and they demonized the feminine aspect. They demonized, they called women whores. I think even so. From what I understand, that Lady Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, wasn't actually a prostitute. Wasn't it corrected later that she was actually a disciple? She was right there alongside Jesus.
She was the daughter of one of the wealthiest shipping merchants at the time. That's the other bit of information. Yeah, she was like. So then look at that. Then they distort that.
It became very tainted. The feminine energy became very tainted that was the beginning of, say, the Piscean age back then. And it became very, very tainted and imbalanced, and through ego, hatred, religious philosophies. Even today, vernacular, I don't like how people just so freely use the word whore. Or if a woman supposedly likes to have sex, she's considered a slut, right? And this is the age-old debate. But if a man does, he's a stud. And I think that it's even ingrained in people's minds. They don't even think about it. It's just we were born with it. We were raised in a way to understand that if a woman likes sex, then she's a slut, and she's not to be revered in that way. And this is a whole sexuality thing that here in America, how screwed up we are with the subject of sex.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up with a father. My dad was born in New York and raised in Maine and Boston and New York and stuff like that. But he was Catholic, and I think he had a bad experience with the church. But I remember him using the sophisticated sounding hooer, not whore.
Oh, okay, that changes everything.
Yeah, but I didn't have a concept of that when he said it. I was too young. But later on in life, I think these terminologies, and when you said that, it just tapped into this thought that I've had, or maybe I just had it now, that there's so many ways that we can keep ourselves from connecting with somebody that we think that can give us what we want the most, or share with us what we want the most.
Mm-hmm.
And also in that, the fear of losing that or whatever, or not being able to control it because of the environment, that there wasn't that, as you were saying, healthy relationship, sexuality, let alone your own sense of self that takes yourself wherever you go. So then that way of trying to dominate and control a woman, right, with shame and guilt. I mean, that language, when you said that, I couldn't even connect to it right now. And I didn't use that word. I was raised with pretty well-educated parents. And although my dad used that word, he didn't use it all the time. He was just saying she was a whore. Right. Mm-hmm. And again, I was too young to hear that, but
right.
I remembered that after that. But it's like when you said it, it's really cool because I hear that stuff in movies, or I saw it, but I never connected to it back then. I never looked at women that way. But I know the fear, and maybe I used other terminology when I was worried and in that place where a woman could hurt me, right? Or I could think she could hurt me or something. So I think that these type of languaging are just a tool to hide yourself from yourself, so you don't share it with somebody you really want to share it with. It's like, wow.
Well, you're funny when you mentioned your dad, and a lot of people that grew up under a Catholic belief system have, the men especially have that they call it the Madonna whore complex. And this was I don't know if it was Carl Jung, or it was a very famous psychologist that kind of came up with that name, so that men could only have a sexual connection with a woman, or they could revere them, but it was hard for them to do both, because they saw women as either a mother figure, like a Mary mother, a Mother of Mary, or their own mother, or they saw them like a whore. And there was a really hard, there was a disconnect there, I guess, between having their woman be everything all in one. And they call that the Madonna whore complex. And that originated from the Catholic religion, apparently.
Wow. I know that one.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing.
No, it was in my consciousness. I grew out of it, but
yeah.
I
think we're about to outgrow a lot of things, is what I'm hoping. Like I said, when it comes to rebuilding, when it comes to like new things are coming, but we have to destroy the old. And I think we're in the process right now of things being dismantled and taken apart, and it's very painful, but I'm excited to where things are going. I'm hoping that we can get more balanced energy, even for myself. I want to understand my divine feminine and where my place is, and stay in my lane, so that awesome. The next 50 years of my life can be even better than the first 50.
There you go. Well, I'm all in on that conversation too, and I've been watching the things that are going on for a long time. As I said, I've known kind of both sides of the fence, and because of my training growing up with guys that were going into that type of business, such as CIA and other things after NOM and stuff like that. So these guys told me a lot of things, and so I've watched this a lot, and I've just recently decided that, and I think it happened meeting you and Jay and the rest of the team, and saying, we're going to take this to bigger numbers.
Yeah.
And this is something that is focused on potential and human potential and possibility, and really self gratification in ways of true experience instead of short-term, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what you said earlier about the Christ consciousness, I believe that's rising right now. And I think everyone has to figure out for themselves what that means. I firmly believe that we are born with an innate Christ consciousness. It's a light inside of us, and it's ours to claim. But, there have been many things at play throughout our lifetime that have kept us from that connection. And there's a direct correlation between ourselves and God, universe, insert the word that works for you. But it is a Christ consciousness. It's a light that once it's freed and you have that connection, it can really change everything. And I believe that's what people are starting to wake up from. I think they're starting to realize that through TV, through fluoride in our water, through chemicals in our food, through the shows we've been watching on TV, and how TV has brainwashed us. We all know how television is just nothing but a brainwashing mechanism. That's why they created it back in the 50s. And all of it has kept us from that shining Christ light inside of us. And I'm just recently getting in touch with that, and it's changing my entire world. And it's been thwarted. It's almost like this conscious entity out there, this evil that wants to keep you from knowing how powerful you are. And they're not going to be able to stop us anymore. And I think that's also part of the divine feminine that's rising. That consciousness is coming in because we need it. We need it as humanity. The earth needs it. We cannot keep going this way. We can't have endless wars. We can't keep poisoning our soil and our food, abusing animals, abusing women, abusing people. All of that has to come to an end, or else we're going to self-destruct.
Yeah, and abusing men.
And abusing men. Absolutely.
Yeah,
all of it needs to end.
Yeah. I woke up one morning after many years of shamanic training, and I was kind of a tough nut to crack because I did take on the full military aspect of training and things like that growing up. So I was really the real deal too. But I was like active in the streets. We'll put it that way. And so, to protect my friends and other people. But I woke up one morning after working with this guy, and he'd help me sit there and see that there was a part of me that believed no matter what I did, nobody would ever love me. And I remember having that thought, I guess this is just my job to be a soldier, bodyguard type guy while I was doing my building and architecture and all this other stuff. But on the weekends, I was working for other people. And I'd taken that attitude on, and I woke up one morning and I had this, oh God. And then all of a sudden it just melted, and it was like the joy of ecstasy or something in my system coming through.
Wow.
And I told my teacher, I go, man, I felt joy this morning, And he looked at me, he goes, you got to look out for that. I go,
meaning what, like beware?
He got me. He goes, I got you. I was afraid of it too. He says,
oh my God.
He goes, the thing about joy, Bart, is once you feel it, once you sense that, once that drop hits there, it's like yoga, it keeps spreading.
Yes.
And joy does exist. And now that was maybe 20 years ago. And, again, I've shared that I've had all these traumas and memories out of my system now that were locked in the head traumas and body traumas. But that's the thing that I think I had given up on.
Wow. So you're talking about limiting beliefs, right? So that's what my podcast is all about, Sacred Valley. It's about ripping off the blindfold of limiting beliefs that keep us from our divine nature, that keep us from who we really are. Someone can say something like they said to you, like, no one's going to ever love you. And that you can latch onto that as a young person or even as an adult, and you can believe it. It can become a belief system and change the whole course of your life. But the reality is it's a complete lie, right? It's a complete and utter lie. It's a limiting belief. And it's time for us to start realizing the divine force within ourselves and to know who we are. And the divine feminine energy is going to help with just that, in my opinion.
I agree. On that note, I think it's probably good to bring this to a close right now.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been very joyful for me to have you here, and thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
Bart.
We'll see you soon.
All right. I look forward to it.
Okay. Thank you. And now I'm going to bring this to a close. You can go to my website, moderndayshaman.net, and we'll have some links there for Tara Crete and also more. You can go to our, there'll be a window that drops down, and you're welcome to place your name there, and then we'll contact you for any trainings that we're doing, and announcements for upcoming events, and more. So thank you for joining us today. I wish you have a wonderful, joyful time, and relax and let the divine feminine come on in. All right. See you later.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a like and click the subscribe button.